insights into the conference themes, fostering meaningful discussions and encouraging active participation. With expert-led sessions, we aim to engage, exchange ideas, and broaden our understanding of how emerging technologies are reshaping the future of architecture, design, and urbanism. Today's webinar is on the topic Rethinking Urbanization, Urban for Informalities and Heritage Conservation through Disruptive Technologies, led by Dr. Binamol Tom and Professor Anand Khatri. I extend my warm welcome to all participants, esteemed dignitaries, and our expert speakers for joining us today. So today we have Professor Jayashree Deshpande, convener of our conference, and CEO, Director of COA TRC is present. So she will be giving an introductory address about the conference. Over to you, Jayashree, ma'am.
Thank you, Mary. I must first of all, before I begin, request all on board to please excuse me because my video is not coming on for some reason, but I'm very much here with all of you. A very warm welcome to all of you here on this platform. And it's nice to see that this webinar series is being taken forward in so many different directions. The conference, COA International Conference, which is titled Transformations 2025, Post-Scripting Change with Disruptive Technologies in Architecture, Design and Urbanism, is the second one in the series of international conferences that Council of Architecture is being hosting. The first one was on architecture education and was conducted at the VIT Vellore campus last year in February. And this is the second one now. And we are looking forward to understanding how architecture is being affected by the so many changes in technologies. All realms of architecture are being deeply affected, and architects are nurturing a secret, I will not say fear, but certainly an apprehension that sometime, somewhere, these artificial intelligence may take over and suddenly they may find that they are no longer so useful as they have been. But I'm sure that this is a phase that will pass, and very soon we will be able to take control of artificial intelligence and mold it to our use and our benefit. We have been having a series of webinars by experts from different domains, and the inputs that they have brought to this platform are certainly enriching and have brought a lot of thoughts from so many different domains. Today, as we begin the sixth webinar, I would like to welcome Dr. Binamol Tom, member of Council of Architecture and a member of the Publication Committee of Transformations 2025, and Professor Anand Khatri from APJ School of Architecture in Delhi to be with us today. They're going to be talking about urbanism, informalities, and particularly heritage conservation. These domains are, again, like I said, deeply affected by disruptive technologies. And today, the discussions that are going to be held with us, in front of us, are going to be guiding us in this domain so that new thoughts can emerge and our younger generation will find ways to take this forward. A warm welcome to both of you, and over to Mary, please, to take it forward.
Thank you, Professor Jayashree.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to give a brief introduction about our speakers. Professor Anand Khatri. He is a professor, architect, researcher, theosophist, healer, and national powerlifter. Anand Khatri fills his research with intersemiotic discussion on vernacular, poetry, healing architecture, and planning. Anand is a graduate of architecture from GCA Lucknow in 1993 and a master's in architectural conservation from SPA Delhi in 1996. The founder of Poesis Society for Poetry, he works to bring poetry into daily life. The founder of Research Repository UVCT, Urban Village Charitable Trust, he is working to develop the knowledge of organizing settlements to better people's lives. His policy recommendations for urban villages were accepted for implementation in G20 T20 2022, and the communique edited by him was accepted in G20 U20 Y20 2023. Anand works full-time at AIT SAP as a professor, the head of the research cell and academic coordinator. Our next speaker, Vinimol Tom. She is a professor and head of Department of Architecture at Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Technology, Kottayam, Kerala. She earned her B.Arch from College of Engineering, Trivandrum in 1994, followed by an M.Arch in Architectural Conservation from School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi in 1996. She completed her PhD from the School of Planning and Architecture, JNTU, Hyderabad in 2006. Her credentials include a CMI Level 5 certification in Management and Leadership from the Chartered Management Institute, UK. As a AICTE nominee to the Council of Architecture, New Delhi, Dr. Tom contributes to architectural education at the national level. A published author and doctoral guide, she regularly shares her expertise at national and international forums and is a founder of UBCT. She is a very esteemed member for us. She is part of our publication committee of the conference Transformations 2020-25. So I warmly welcome Professor Vinimol Tom and Professor Anand Khatri to start with your webinar today.
Thank you, Mary Thomas. And thank you, Professor Jayashree. Thank you, Dr. Aparna. And it's really very delightful that just a second, let me share my screen. Can you stop the screen share? Yeah. Okay. Is the screen visible, clear? Yeah. And so I'm really very thankful to everyone around, and it's very delightful that the Council of Architecture did think of such a wonderful conference on disruptive technologies, and DY Patil has been housing the whole thought and inviting people to discuss it. Myself and Professor Binu had studied architectural conservation together. So we were impregnated by the same process of thought, in architecture. And we also connect as founders of Urban Village Charitable Trust. So at Urban Village Charitable Trust, we study villages, we study urban informalities, we study villages, and we try to develop information base, a research repository, in the form of discussions, in the form of books, in the form of videos, in the form of serious publications. And, we hold discussions and documentations of what is happening around and what has been left out from the urban informalities. There are 16 founder members, and it's our 6th year where we are holding things in continuum. So this discussion on urban informalities and heritage and disruptive technologies is something which we have been working on for quite some time. And the structure of today's discussion I'll share with you very briefly before we go on further. So initially, we try to evolve a theoretical basis for the discussion on disruptive technology, then using disruptive technologies for better understanding of urban villages and informalities. Then we discuss how policy and governance through adoption of hybrid recognition systems is taking place, how participatory processes, how experimenting with prompts is working, and we try to end up with some actionable conclusions and are inviting everybody to develop a framework with us. The theoretical basis of discussing disruptive technology today. The first question that comes to my mind is that are we really facing technology, or do we really need it? Is technology opposed to our existence? Why is the word disruptive being used? This word disruptive initially came in use in 1995 by a Harvard professor, And then on, it has been discussed. So somewhere I was reading a discussion that the first disruptive technology was the discovery of wheel. But you see, a lot of technologies get embedded into us and become a part of our day-to-day lives, a part of our day-to-day mechanics. But when technology invades human systems, and when technology invades our individual systems, then we are quite alien to it. But here, what we are facing today is not just technology, it's economics also, because it is all getting very, very mixed up. I have been thinking about disruptive technologies, this dialogue, for quite some time. And whenever I have thought of it in great detail, I have realized that it's more of economics that is at play than entirely technology. And either technology is leading to economics or economics is leading to technology. But I leave the discussion and deliberations to further researchers. Then the next question that clouds our mind is that when was it that technology and society got intertwined? That new technologies have started impacting our lives. When was it? Was it during modernism? Was it during the Renaissance? Was it when we started settling as societies? When was it? When was it that we discovered that we were a society and we parallelly discovered copper age tools or some tools? Was it then? Or is it really impacting us largely now when it has gone beyond not just our physical capabilities, our emotional and community capabilities, but it is also overpowering our intellectual capabilities. And everybody is trying to align to cues that we get from technology and develop on it. So the parallel question that rises is technology impacting communities? Is it impacting crafts? I feel yes. I would love you all to deliberate and develop your arguments on this. The next question that we face here while discussing disruptive technologies today is that why are we adapting ourselves to the new technologies? Or are we really using it? Are we adapting it? Or is it really useful to the way we are? We are definitely in the process of a change. From birth to death, we are in the process of a change. And in between is the unlimited set of unheard, undiscussed briefs that are sent to us. And technologies happen in between. So GIS, AI, VR, even AutoCAD, information systems, so many technologies overlay our initial basic capabilities. So are we really adapting our knowledge systems, adapting our knowledge and capabilities to technologies? Or are we really able to use it to enhance what we are? That is something that we have to deliberate very, very, very deeply. Technologies are coalescing. Like when we discuss VR, then we discuss AI. So I was having a discussion with some young friends who are working on the VR and AI program that we are running. And they were telling me of a way in which an AI image could be converted using VR into a form-based mechanic. This was Rajiv Sharma, and he was telling me that how people are converting AI. Initially, they are generating an AI image, and then through VR, they are converting it into a form. And through that form, they are now making drawings. So this way, I mean, yes, initially we always thought of a building as a sketch. We made a conceptual sketch. We made a building look and feel in the form of a perspective, and then we approached design. But there were times when we were seriously into design, when we were experimenting on the plan itself, and things were being tuned down into the plan. But here, technologies are coalescing. GIS is getting abutting with AI. Communication technology is abutting with AI, and so on and so forth. All our Uber and delivery systems is all GIS based. So while technologies are coalescing, is the new man, that is me and you, with the man of the past technologies? We really are not. We are leaving so many of us behind when we are walking ahead with technologies. Are our professions, knowledge interconnections, semantics changing with technology? They are. We have even left our languages behind. And are professions important? or are we wanting to look at new formats of professions? So while discussions on architecture, the use of design at the root of architecture in the light of disruptive technologies, the necessity of understanding material and detail to a greater depth to be able to use technologies, or the blindness to material and detail that arises out of the ready details that you get in terms of design, the way our clients get swayed away by quick AI images which their young children generate for a small room plan or an interior or something, and we spend endless amount of hours trying to tell them that why this is wrong, and the way the profession is facing all these interconnected discussions is something that we are and we should discuss. But while we discuss it, we also must understand that till the time we don't take a deeper dive into the disruptive tech, we will not be able to emerge successful. So our profession's important. So when I say this, I also say it with a lot of element of respite, because all while I had seen architecture evolving, I had seen architecture giving birth to so many other parallel professions. So, in a recent book which the Council of Architecture had published, I had explained how economics, another branch of information and knowledge, another profession, grew over three different knowledge systems: accounting, international trade, and commerce. They were three different subjects which economics took over under its ambit and became economics. So economics was not coexistent with them. How GIS was something that geography, it became a geographic information system, and how geography has entered into the day-to-day functioning of every possible knowledge system. So while I say this, I'm saying that professions are important, and professions must get into better interconnections for and through disruptive, so that they develop their existence in the knowledge foray. Will the disruptive technologies disrupt the pre-knowledge sensitization? We as teachers know that even before a student draws a single line for design in plan, we take ultimate time, a lot of time, to make them realize the importance of a line, how a line communicates laughter, happiness, sadness, why a line should be straight, when is a line curved, and the meaning of a line. So will the excessive use, or the overpowering use of disruptive tech lead to lack of sensitization and the construction of information that leads to the discovery of new dimensions of knowledge? This is a real question. While I agree that disruptive tech is necessary, and we may not end up calling it disruptive tech, but I also believe that the evolution of new dimensions of knowledge may not have happened all through in the lives of people in the past, but in the presence of disruptive tech, the birth and the acceptance of new knowledge is going to be very difficult. I now invite Dr. Binu to take over the discussion.
Thank you, Professor Anand. As a continuation of what Professor Anand was discussing, like the technology, whether it is a double-edged sword, because I'm always a devil's advocate. So we should understand, or maybe certain facts that all of us agree upon, that we live in a rapidly evolving technological landscape, and we stand today at the intersection of unprecedented innovation and cherished tradition, because being conservation architects, we understand that it is that particular cross junction where we are standing. And for that, there have been a tremendous effort being put forth to understand what technologies are. Like maybe we understand technology as sustaining, as incremental, as radical, or as disruptive. In a nutshell, we would say technologies are sustaining because we know that we need this technology to sustain ourselves. We are aware of the updates that we get promptly on our phones, on our computers, with which we upgrade the software that we are using, the small WhatsApp or Instagram, whatever we are using, we upgrade them to the newer version, and it is a basic necessity so that there is a smooth transition of life from the lower version to the higher version. And we would say technology is incremental when we think about the old phones. Now we have phones which has got a camera, which has got a system where you can play music, videos, and to the extent that we even use a mobile to punch our face in colleges. So we have understood technology as incremental. And sometimes we understand technology as radical as, bringing in the Uber, where, movement restriction has been taken away, and it is the easiest and the safest method of transporting, even if you are in a totally unknown place. And then comes the technology to be understood as disruptive. The technology that has actually changed everything that we do. I would say that maybe my life, if I divide into 25 years of offline life, where rarely to the end of the 25 glorious years of existence, we were introduced to internet, with which we understand that communication has become so easy. And not only communication, but also like digital transactions too. Even teleporting might come up. I'm sure Professor Anand would remember, like we all reach college, and then we have to wait for the trunk call that comes from home to inform them that we have reached home, college safe. And otherwise, when you get out of the train itself, you have an inland paper on which you would have already written that the travel was comfortable, all the stories that happened during the travel, so that the letter reaches home 3 days or 4 days later. From Delhi to Kerala, it might take almost a week to inform parents that, okay, this is what has happened during the travel, so on and so forth. So now you are just tracking where somebody is going, your child is going, the tracking is done. Moment to moment, second to second, we get the information that the vehicle that is moving, so on and so forth. So it has become it is good. That is why I said it is it's a double-edged sword, where it has got its positives and it has got its negatives. But we should also understand that it is going to continue to reshape our world at a very accelerating pace, not like the way we got transformed from the trunk call to landline to, so on and so forth. So it actually brings in a paradoxical mix of opportunities and challenge, which we need to equip ourselves to take up the good of the opportunity and then see how we can work it out as a challenge going ahead. So we must also understand that especially when we talk about heritage conservation in villages or even urban areas, such technology has to be integrated very carefully so that it will respect the cultural heritage and improve functionality. A question that comes to our mind is whether digital mapping and GIS help document informal settlements or heritage sites at risk in the most proper manner. We all agree upon it. The physical documentation using digitization has become a part of our life. We have photogrammetry at highest precision level, digital 3D models, laser scanning techniques, and very similar methods which have actually taken the traditional manual tools aside. And we are also witnessing that there are a lot of latest digitization wave that is happening driven by disruptive technologies, where you have the LiDAR, which would capture all the points, and then, you get the actual as-found drawings as you would like to have when you are documenting manually. And the impacts of these technologies, though, are not much in terms of what we say as the physical representation, but in the cultural domain, how much would it affect is something that we need to really search upon. So we have this digital mapping using GIS techniques. Then we have the satellite imagery with sub-meter resolution, which captures a broad spatial context. Then we have this aerial LiDAR, which generates precise three-dimensional models with centimeter level accuracy. We also have unmanned aerial vehicles through which we do photogrammetry, mobile mapping systems, etc. But these technologies, they create a multi-resolution digital record that captures both macro and micro details of settlements and sites. So that makes our job very easy and fast without wasting much of our sweat on these kinds of documentation. Then also to manage this complex spatial data, we have this specialized geo database architecture, again speeding up the process of analyzing and understanding, and probably supporting us to take some informed decisions. We have advanced spatial analysis methodologies which extract meaningful patterns and relationships from the collected data, to the extent that even if we are going to a site which doesn't have structures now, but the past satellite data, using that we can extrapolate how the settlement would have been. And then object-based image analysis, which actually combines with the machine learning to identify informal structures and heritage elements. So all these are there to support us in our physical documentation of structures. But as we all agree, and as how Mahatma Gandhi had put it across, the real India lives in its villages. And it is not just because of these physical infrastructure alone, but it is also because of the community life and the soft parts, soft things that would add value to conservation. So how much this technology can really work towards documenting that is another question that we have in mind. Can we move further?
Yeah, Professor Binu, I would like to add something here. While you mentioned GIS and the use of GIS in city planning and urban villages and so on and so forth, I have to share this. Like in Noida, Delhi, Greater Noida, Yeda, there is Map 1, and in so many other cities there is Map 1. So, but when you look at Map 1, the GIS and the economics, the modern economics and the GIS, they illustrate only the newly planned areas. When it comes to an urban village or a village, the whole thing is surrounded and it's empty there. Anybody could go to Map 1 and see that for yourself in Delhi, in Noida, in Greater Noida, in Yeda. These are primarily my areas of research, and all authorities are oblivious because GIS does not work on them. So there are limitations, but yet, it has to be brought to an even end so that we can have a space in the technology and share knowledge.
And especially in those areas where like Mehroli or other heritage areas, I'm sure such data is available, which could be used for further conservation procedures.
Right.
So then the next question that comes to our mind is, like we all talk about blockchain, usage of blockchain, whether this blockchain play a role in recording informal property rights and preserving heritage documents. Yes, because it works on a ledger technology, which creates an independently verifiable record of property claims and heritage data, if the data is fed, and that exists outside the traditional centralized system. Centralized traditional system is mostly in older days it used to be on palm leaves, but now it has been transferred to paper, prints, so on and so forth. But with this ledger technology, we'll be able to identify, because it works on, it utilizes the cryptographic proof mechanisms to establish verifiable claims to land and structures, especially also in informal settlements. So that gives us a technical advantage. And then each property claim is recorded as a transaction which contains essential metadata. Spatial coordinates will be there, property dimensions are there, claimants identifiers are there, then time-stamped occupation history also to some extent. So this actually pushes the other side of documentation, which is required to prove certain things which might come up while we think about conservation of such urban and rural areas. So blockchain is a secure digital record keeping system which can be utilized, especially in case of informal property rights, and also helps in heritage documentation. Can we move to the next one, please? Then comes the whole, world of augmented reality and virtual reality. such technologies provides us with an immersive experience, especially about historic areas, and they can be used for educational and tourism purposes. And they also work on a digital environment that transcend the physical and temporal limitations. They provide a multi-sensory experience, but not all, as of how you would feel it when you are there, but reveal the hidden layers of heritage, making visible certain complex layers of history, cultural significance, and social dynamics. Augmented reality, which can be deployed on smartphones and tablets, can transform our ordinary walk into unknown areas, into a educationally rich journey. And maybe augmented reality overlays can reveal historical information about buildings, display archival photographs, though we are using such augmented reality in certain UNESCO protected heritage sites in India. It can move into, it should become a common man's method by which we can move into every village of India and understand about the information, not only about the history, but also the local knowledge systems that are available. And that calls in for a larger game where we need to document the vernacular knowledge systems of these villages before they go into oblivion. And then how the data is transferred onto these metaverse is, database is that there is a layered approach which actually superimposes the history, the character, and all the other parameters that we feed in, for which we collect the data. And then that becomes a kind of a single storyline for the person by creating a temporal bridge between what is old and what is new. So that also works like the virtual reality can take you to, by giving the proper parameters. It is again the proper parameters. It can show you how it would have been 10 years before. If it can identify what are the new elements that have been added to that particular streetscape. Then obviously virtual reality environments also play a major role by creating digital reconstructions of urban villages and lost historical areas, ruined historical sites, incorporating architectural details, sound, even the sound and the lighting conditions, all the modifying elements of architecture, and even stimulated human activity that reflects the traditional life of the place. Shall we move to the next one?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So here we all are at the same page where we understand that we have to reconceptualize urban villages as assets rather than problems in urban development. This itself is a special topic which needs further deliberation. So I'm directly looking at how the technology would, or disruptive technology would help us document and legitimize informal data, including land use and ownership patterns. There are machine learning algorithms which are applied to satellite imagery time series. Again, forgive me, not for those villages which doesn't have the imagery, but for the ones which have the imagery, provide additional legitimacy to informal ownership claims by establishing certain level of occupation histories and settlement patterns with objective temporal evidences. And these temporal evidences will surely show us the transformation that has happened over the years or over centuries. So AI systems that are trained to identify structure development, boundary establishment, land use changes across decades of satellite imagery can confirm longevity of occupation and consistent usage pattern. And if there is a breakage of the usage pattern, which is reflected in the physical entity, that will also be found out by the system. So it can be combined with the participatory mapping platforms that incorporate local knowledge of historical arrangements and community agreements. So, I mean, these are all helping tools for us to develop the so-called conjecture of certain things that have lost into oblivion, which we are trying to recreate. And also provide certain, statement-wise facts which would help us reinstate the conservation plan that we prepare for villages, historic urban villages and sites. Shall we move ahead a little? Yeah. So now we are going to look at the policy governance through adoption of hybrid recognition system. Though we have this traditional recognition systems, I think by providing a hybrid mode, like using disruptive technology, or rather using AI and other accomplishments to support the legal frameworks, which would help us, especially in cases where there is a confusion regarding like who owns what and what is the boundary of that heritage zone, what could be considered as special heritage zone, what could be considered, which area has to be considered as the buffer zone, so on and so forth. So again, here we can use a multimodal data packages, which include satellite imagery, time series, then community attestations, utility payment histories, blockchain verified boundary claims. All that will help us analyze the spatial data. And also along with that, if we have the community inputs, then we would be able to identify certain areas which could be prone to certain kind of natural calamities. So this layered database would actually support us and creates a technical triage system that allows the administration to focus on complex cases, which otherwise would be looked at only after the disaster has hit such areas. And then we also should understand that these technology led, community-led technological initiatives cannot be forced upon to them. Rather, it should be in such a way that community should be uplifted, or their technological capabilities should be uplifted, so that they will be able to initiate certain efforts from their end to help us with these kinds of technological documentation, wherein we can use distributed decision support system, participatory mapping platforms, so on and so forth, which would help us have the community with us along with our end of our effort of documenting. And another point which we need to look at is the metrics beyond economic growth that would guide urban development in heritage-rich areas, and how it can be accelerated with the help of disruptive technology. Obviously, value of heritage is something that cannot be left with the machine to analyze. There is always a soft touch to it, which only human interface can finally come to a conclusion, which has many times been debated in conservation classes. So we need to work out certain multidimensional frameworks like the authenticity matrices. Like, how do you define authenticity in a historic zone? So we will have to develop parameters where we are trying to quantify the rate of the traditional or vernacular practices that have been practiced, the crafts, the knowledge systems, the linguistic diversity. All this comes under authenticity indices. And
Yeah. So
one thing,
I'm
I'll
sorry.
just give an example for this. Or would you like to?
Yeah, I would like to add something here, Dr. Binu. I would like to share a little bit of information on what we are doing. So when you talked about legal frameworks, so I just wanted to share at this particular junction that in our college, we are working with the Ministry of Panchayati Raj to develop GPSDP, Gram Panchayat Spatial Development Plans. So in 2020, we were working with drone imagery, and we were working on plans. In 2025, while detailing this 25-year plan, the ministry has taken the step of working with remote sensing data and GIS. And it is not just us who are working. The ministry wants the villages and the panchayat and the people who are responsible for converting this data into action, or our plans into action, to understand the GIS language and be able to at least make recommendations. So while you were talking about heritage and listing and cities and the use of community-led technology initiatives, bridging the gap between formal planning and information reality. So this kind of a step by governance is something which could actually lead to a better future, a more integrated future. Another example is when under our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Swamitva was started. So Swamitva is a big step where the legal boundary outlines of lands in villages and land ownership data is being put together in a big way. So there are a lot of case discussions on this at the ministerial levels, where a lot of villages have got their villagers have got their formalized property cards, and they are now legal owners of their lands, which was never documented or was always documented, but in a format which was not bridged into technology. So this is a point which I wanted to make while you were continuing the discussion. Please do so.
Thank you. And we were talking about the authenticity indices, and I was just remembering, these indices, if they have been identified as and marked by an AI system, whether it would be able to evaluate these as innovations which enhance the authentic experience, or would it be something that we mean to say as meaning of a place. Suddenly, I just went to the traditional agraharams of South India in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, which are Brahmin settlements. These are row houses. Agraharam means Agre Vasadi Hari Hara. Idi Agrahara. So you have Hari and Hara on both the ends, and then you have a garland of houses or row houses in between. So if you look into the spatial configuration of such houses, we have this veranda, then you have an inner veranda, then you have the inner spaces like reary and courtyards and your kitchen, so on and so forth. So what happens in such you have a street at the center and you have buildings on both sides. So what happens during the daytime? You have this tata or party, that is a grandpa and grandma of each agraharam unit. So each row house, agraharam is a set of row houses. So they talk to each other across the street, which is again a very authentic system, what we call as thinnai pecha. So that thinnai is a veranda. But with this thinnai pecha, they are discussing about the social, political, cultural issues, everything on a day-to-day basis. Plus, it is like how the Jane Jacob said, no, it's eyes on the street. You have children playing in the street, the front street, but grandpa and grandma of each individual unit is watching them. So they are safe. It is not like having a CCTV camera, again, a technological innovation, which captures, but it only captures and keeps so that we will have a record of who has committed the crime. But here it is eyes on the street. So what happens is with technology, that's why I said it's a double-edged sword. This kind of thinnai picture has been brought down to just a WhatsApp or an Instagram space.
Yeah, correct.
Wherein the tata of the opposite agraharam will be talking to just opposite your eyesight person through WhatsApp.
While the street is having a traffic.
Yeah, while the street is, so this kind of authentic nature or what gives that place its value and authenticity. And I'm sure this is an example of South India. You must be having more examples in North too.
Yeah, I can share something with you from here. Instead of just a community and conversational and access and space and road, this is an example from Jammu where the first invitation for the wedding goes to a bauli, a bauli or a spring or a water supply. So from the girl's house, from the boy's house, the first invitation from both the houses go to a bauli. The first invite is given to the bauli and it's given by the maternal uncle of the bride, that we are having this marriage. Please bless the household with water and abundance. And then when the marriage is complete, the new bride walks up to the bauli to get a pitcher of water home. So while baulis have dried out, the custom continues. The first invitation still goes to the bauli. The maternal uncle takes the invite to the bauli, and the bride goes there and maybe gets some vessel of water which is filled there and brings it home. So what I'm trying to say is that while these customs, the infrastructure perishes, as in your case in South Agraharams, the road is a traffic-laden road, and chit-chat is happening across the houses, the Agraharams, through WhatsApp. Now here is a case where the ecological connectivity of people and social systems is getting disrupted, yet people are trying to follow it. But no level of metrics, no level of documentation, and no level of technology would ever be able to absorb such passing glimpses of a beautiful social life and reintegrate the human thinking into formats in which it used to be. So that is all that I wanted to share. You could please continue with your discussion.
Shall we move further?
Yeah.
Slide. So with this two examples from South and North, I'm sure we would be able to establish that we need to go, whatever, how much ever be the technological advancement, it should be based on a participatory approach from the community, because community will know much more than these machines could read. So it should be a very, very much down-to-earth, participatory, bottom-up approach, because local knowledge is the cornerstone in defining heritage. And if that local knowledge cannot be recorded by the technology, then the value of heritage is lost. We will and support digital ethnography tools, everything that helps us have a faster and speedy way of collection. But always we need to be very sensitized that local knowledge lies with the community, and through the community, and also those approaches that supports the way in which they can make it a participatory manner of imparting the local knowledge, then only we'll be able to do a successful conservation program. Can we move further? So whatever is said and done, we are quite happy with the technological world that we are living. And all the disruptive technologies offer very powerful tools for our life as well as for heritage conservation and urban development. Human understanding will continue to play a decisive role in taking the final decision making, because there are a lot of critical things that are there which technology cannot fully replicate. So value judgment, ethical considerations, they remain fundamentally the human domains. So technologies can quantify, analyze, and create models and give us options. But finally, when it comes to the decision, it is this human sensitive domain that needs to make a very precise decision. So I must say that there is a contextual intelligence which needs to be brought into disruptive technology, which I think only a human brain possesses. And so, because it's a human brain which can understand such complex social, cultural, and political context as how it would be found in such historical sites, whether they are urban villages or urban historic cores. It is the human brain that has to be given the final it's through the human brain that the final decision can be taken. Though AI can do a lot of processing of data, vast amount of data which we cannot, the human brain cannot, but ultimately it comes to the fact that any sensitive approach or intervention for a conservation project needs to be done through the accurate human judgment. We all understand that technology is a powerful design support tool. It is not a design tool. It's a support tool. So let us take the help of the support tool. But at the same time, we need to understand that human-centered decisions are important. The integration of technology with human decision-making so represents not a competition, but it is an evolution, enhancing our capacity to make more informed decisions which are good for our environment. With this, I switch over to Professor Anand.
Yeah. So I think we don't have adequate time left from the time given to us, but I'll still try and take it through as fast as possible. So to delve a little deeper, we tried to, with two of my researchers, Kim and Karthike, and with the help of Raji, we tried to develop prompts to see how AI would respond to certain, restorations or conservations or vernacular. So the language of AI is still not, I'm not dealing with all disruptive technologies, but I'm just trying to discuss AI here. So this on the left-hand side is the entry gate of Dushyant Kumar's house in Bijnor, which we had recently done for UPPCL as a restoration project. And when I shared the image with them to try and talk about restoration. What is the AI feedback on restoration of the entry gate using vernacular elements? So it need not be explained that the scale is gone, the shape is gone, the detail is gone, the side pillars are gone, the color is gone, the door is gone, the gateway is gone, the alas are gone, and it develops into a new vocabulary. So while AI did a fantastic job of imagining, but that imagination is quite far off. Similarly, I'm not saying, I mean, somebody could come and tell me that you had not given the right prompts. So I would say that yes, that may be right, but how many prompts would you need to give so that the redevelopment of this particular model by AI would have been perfect, and to what end? So there are certain cases and areas where AI is still short of information, and we have to dovetail our knowledge system into all disruptive or all technologies and become very technology enabled as a profession, so that our solutions are found there. When some researcher, when some younger person uses this technology after a few years, they should be able to find it. Now, when we used village development vernacular architectural design on this particular image on the left in Kalonda, which is a village on which we are working, then what came out was completely a Bengal kind of a detail. And in the next, when we talked about the redevelopment and adaptive reuse and urban development and canal restoration, then we can see that although the canal, I mean, this is a complete canal, and the adaptive reuse of the open area, maybe the command and maybe the context was not very clear to AI, but what comes out is completely different in scale, different foliage, and so on and so forth. When we use this, the command on a Haveli restoration project, which is going on in ISKCON temple in Shahjahanabad, then we see that AI by itself changed and modified the structural system. Although what came out as a detail was very impressive, but that detail is not true to the scale, not true to the shape, not true to the structure, and neither to the heights and sections. When we use similar prompts to develop the village with better infrastructure, according to the Indian context, the horse was gone, the horseman was gone, and the road developed into a fairy tale kind of a situation where a beautiful vista with hills, which are not there in this picture, got there. So everything else understood. I really didn't know how the hills could get in. And then in a similar prompt, AI converted a canal restoration project by uprooting a khajur ka ped and putting up some other tree and descaling, putting in hills and ice peaks. So we were all laughing, Kim, Karthikeya, and Rajiv, when all these results were coming. And they said that maybe my point is taken, my point is proved. But it's not just about proving my point. The idea is that architecture as a field or design as a tool, or maybe vernacular thought, or maybe the thought on heritage, or maybe the discussion on urban villages, urban informalities, peoples, communities, and so on and so forth, finds very little space in the technology enabled discussions. It is because of which we lead to such results. This is again a part of Dushyant Kumar's house in Bijnor, and what came out as a development of landscape is visible to you here. So as a summary, what I am trying to say here is that the technologies reshaping our world offer us not a binary choice between tradition and innovation, but rather an unprecedented opportunity for integration. AI and VR for immersive heritage experiences enables virtual reconstructions, interactive storytelling, and remote tourism. That's fine, but not the real experience. Our preparations for it, I must share that we at UVCT, Urban Village Charitable Trust, while working on the brownfield policy with 10 different institutions, have now been running along with the sponsorship of Council of Architecture, E4TLI, which is the Erasmus Fund, and professors from ETSA, the School of Architecture at University of Navarra, a program for capacity building of institutions and teams across 10 different geographies in our country. There are 246 participants which are as a part of this program, and the program is vetted by NIUA and the Council of Architecture President, Professor Abhay Vinay, to capacity build institutions and teams for acclimatizing the technologies and architectural education for a better future, better tomorrow. So this is the team that is working, and we are basically 6 of us who are taking care of this, and these are the professors who are with us. There are team leaders from the 10 different urban geographies, and they are all having their team members working on villages and urban villages. So you may write to us, but before we end, I would like to discuss AI a little further by bringing down some information from what I had seen and in presentations from University of Florida and Hong Kong University at ACSP in Seattle, where AI-assisted planning was being discussed. So when AI-assisted planning was being discussed, I developed teams here in India and discussed AI-assisted heritage conservation, AI-assisted interior design and architecture, AI-assisted indigenous vernacular architecture in urban villages. And it was from this 4th discussion that this meeting sprang. So while discussing AI-assisted planning, we realized that gathering and processing big data, identifying through statistical, associational potential causes, summarizing documents and publications, processing data and suggesting solutions is all that AI could do in planning. While in assisted heritage conservation, conjectural reconstruction of ruins of buildings, thinking alternative solutions, research summaries, reconstruction of old maps, and visualization of options from a culture or age is something that AI could assist. And I am not discussing all of disruptive, I'm reminding, I'm just discussing AI. So when AI could do so much for heritage and AI could do so much for planning, all the other technologies put together could do a lot. But the role of the architect, the designer, the decision maker, the sensitized mind is much higher. AI-assisted interior design and architecture, quick work on structuring solutions for interior spaces, same space renderings, alternative fixtures, lightings, alternative buildings, 3D solutions, animations, visualization of space, and AI-assisted indigenous vernacular architecture, urban villages, since it needs indigenous research and in absence of the big AI data, AI can, and in the absence of big data, AI cannot assist. So we found that AI could work on communication, processing, reasoning, averaging of knowledge, planning, and management of systems, but not really design. So this was a finding. This is a framework which I request DY Patil and COA to help us increase using technologies and where they are being used, and enhance this grid multifold so that AI could be understood and our path as architects, as designers can become more clear. Here we have tried to map as many elements where AI is being used, not just through our common day knowledge, but through research papers. And we have tried to map the disruptive technologies that are trying to change the face of practice of architecture, and henceforth this. Thank you so much. I hope we are much in time and have ended the discussion so that the energy to think is left. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that was truly an enriching session. So the students, architects, anybody who is part of this, maybe got many enlightening points from this session, I guess. I know it is you got a very limited time to explain many aspects of the topic, and you tried to cover most of it. But I am sure that during conference you will be continuing this, and we all are waiting to witness that. I mean, as Binumol ma'am said, it is a multifaceted topic. It has many aspects. And you truly pointed out about the, even the economic aspect, the accounting, the international trade, everything, try to insert that there. And even the, the technology, like, AR, VR, how we can incorporate that, for mapping the informality, which is always a challenging part. And if we see heritage conservation is something a very sensitive topic. So there, if we can use technology to map them, so that itself is a big part. So now I welcome everyone to ask questions. So if you have any questions, you can ask now.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Mayurish.
Hi, I am audible.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of the road, but I have a question. Uh, so, just hold on. So, basically, what has happened is that we have used AI in different capacities. Now, the arch which I saw, where the AI prompted an image, and that image gave a certain kind of typology or a prototype of an arch versus once we had created urban guidelines and we tried to prompt AI, and AI generated images that were typically how any architect would interpret it. So, are we looking at AI as a tool, or are we making AI to design for ourselves and prompt and then say, okay, this is the kind of image that you get. Now let's design this. So, how do you draw parallels with such kind of two outputs? With the examples of such kind of outputs? Anybody can just answer. I'm just kind of this question that yeah.
I'm thankful you asked the question. I was thinking that some question on prompts and related discussions would come. So the whole thing that we are discussing is that in case if the question was on economics, accounting, in case if it was on GIS, something which is very concrete, on which there is enough information, something which has been a part of technology, then it is easier for technology to assist that information system. While when we talk about architecture and design, so much has to go into it. Like when you talk about India and vernacular and contemporary vernacular and village systems and village policies, when we ourselves have not talked about these enough into the technology, so then how do we expect technology to assist it? So it's not just about the use of right words, it's also about how much are we feeding into it. So the idea is that if there is a garib aadmi, if there is a poor person, if there is a hut, if there is a vernacular house, if there is a mud house, only when that is connected to the technology will AI be able to incorporate it or try to relate it. When the local vernacular is connected to AI knowledge system, or it is talked about in that knowledge system, then only it can assist in developing answers to it. So it's not just about the incompetence of AI. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying technology can be used when you feed into the technology. That is what I tried to say. So the way our information systems are moving, we have to maintain that full paced flow of information into technology so that solutions are available. So that would be my reply. It's not just about the choosing the right words, but it's about feeding sufficient amount of information into it.
Agreed,
And
agreed.
yeah, and
Yeah.
AI works on a probability method.
Yeah.
So how much ever data it has, it makes out the most probable answer. So that most probable answer may not be the contextual answer for a heritage site. That is why we need to be a little cautious when we use AI to become the decision maker in conservation projects, while it can become a support tool for collection of data. So that is the difference, where you're using it as a servant to collect the data, and you're not using it to become the master to make a decision, because it may not be able to take an informed decision, because the decision has to be made on a project which has got very complex interweb of data relationships. Like we might talk about the culture, we might talk about the social status. So all this, if we can develop a web of sources onto which these are interconnected, and if, see, might as well it becomes easier to give a decision for the site rather than develop a framework. Because India, if we look at our country from north to south, you find a variety, a diversity of culture. Diversity of culture has brought in diversity of architecture. So it should be used as a tool, and it is not the end. Technology is not the end. It is something that will actually help us use it and make our job easier. Like how when calculators were there in our school days, we never were allowed to use calculators because our parents wanted us to know the basic multiplication and division. But now calculators have started taking over, which is even there in the mobile. So the mathematical, calculation quality of students, we will, of this particular generation, if we check, we will be able to understand the degradation. So technology is a double-edged sword. We have to be very careful having it, holding it, and taking it forward.
But then how do we create that platform where we have enough amount of data? Because for example, if I'm looking at augmented reality would develop something that I have generated out of my mind. But when it comes to data, like for something like heritage structure, it will only do something which it has seen or which it has observed for over time. Because it is not at our control that what the AI or the kind of system which is there, which is seen so many examples. It has seen some limited amount of examples which has been fed to it. So how do we create that network? Because it will be similar to doing an urban mapping. It will be similar. It will be same when we do anything regarding social housing or social data. So how do we create that platform?
See, when you spoke about augmented reality, even if you provide the AI with all the data, including the climatological data, how the daylight will be falling into the interiors, and how it differs 10 o'clock today and 10 o'clock tomorrow, the light, there is a variation. I don't think that augmented reality will be able to give you a real life experience. So there is a limitation for the AI that has been developed. We don't know. Maybe tomorrow we would develop AI which would even take over all these kinds of differences between the real life and the augmented one. But as of now, we need to develop a lot of, like how Professor Anand ended, that it is a matrix. So now what we require is to see which all AI can go into supporting us as a support tool for what all kinds of activities. Similarly, when we identify each activity or each particular case, we need to develop such a large web, like www web of a matrix into which we provide the data, or that web will be fed into AI, which will collect the data. Then again, it might come up to a real life scenario. And we do not know how it is going further ahead.
Yeah.
Right. Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mayuresh. So any more questions? So I have a question. It's regarding the contextual intelligence, which Dr. Binimal ma'am spoke about. So in heritage, if you see, especially in conservation, intangible heritage, which is very important. So how can we map intangible heritage? So using the AI, so maybe after mapping, even if you are getting maybe two generations, maybe they can relate to the intangible part. They can the authenticity of that intangible heritage can be visualized. I'm not sure about it. So I mean, in the course of time, will the value of that intangible heritage, if we make a repository of that, will it affect the authenticity of that intangible heritage? So how can technology can be intervened in such situations?
It's a real big question. I'll just try to explain it taking a case study. Like in Trivandrum, I think in the whole world, there is only one airport which shuts down to uh, cater to a particular festival which happens annually. That is in Trivandrum. When we have Arata, the Trivandrum International Airport is shut down for half a day. No flights are allowed to take off, nor the flights land, because of the deed that the then king had with the government, that this particular festival of Sri Padmanabha Swami should happen throughout for ages and ages and ages. And what happens during that time is we can, using AI, if we can develop a web wherein we can fill in all the required data, the parameters, the matrices and all, still the whole essence of understanding and living with that intangible heritage is a human experience that no machine can actually feel. So that, I don't know, that is a big question itself. Can a machine, or can we call AI a machine because it's a machine which we built, but can that machine actually experience, because all of us are like, no, I would say I'm right brain, you would say you're right brain or left brain. So the experience that we have, even if I give you an apple, that apple gives you an experience, the same apple gives me a different experience. How do we bring all these kinds of experiences into one container? Because an AI will require a compartment into which it will be able to put things. And then based on those compartments, the weight of the compartments, it can make a decision. While for us, we have a softer area, and most of our decisions are based on that softer area, like that emotional quotient. If we can develop an AI which even understands emotional quotient, and then I'm happy. I don't have any questions. I would say I would surrender to that AI where it can feel, experience the way like I experience or you experience. Then it's fine. We are in for the game. Let AI take over. But till that time,
Correct. You know, I would like
nothing more
to
to add.
add to what Professor Binu just talked, Mary. I will give you two examples. You know, the Indianization of technology has not taken place. You know, technology is boomeranging over our heads. Like it's coming, it's landing, and we are adapting and we are hanging on technology like parachutes. But we have not been, we are just not able to find our ground. We are not landing. We are somewhere in the mid-air with technology, is all that I would say. So what I have to tell you is that in North, we have got these Pradakshina Paths in Vrindavan. We have these Pradakshina Paths in, in Kashi. We had this Kumbh, this whole Kumbh, no technology, no knowledge system, no sense of logic, no predictability can actually take care of this. Similarly, we have a festival where people from villages, take water to a particular hill for the worship of Shiva. And it is also unpredictable that the police and the local administration have to take care of roads and the movement of these people while they are singing, walking, running on the ground with saffron clothes. And this happens all across UP, Uttar Pradesh. So has this been ever discussed in the foray of technology, in the technological discussions, in the research discussions? Have the paths been constructed? Like we all must have seen this, video where the path of a flying kite is discussed, in the sky. So it shows that how an eagle has been migrating and what was the path. So at least an eagle has been documented to be moving from continent to continent. Have these people been documented? Has it been thought? It has not been thought. If it is not thought, it is not even the beginning of inducting technology to decision making, is all that I would say on your question of intangibles. So we are, as it is, struggling on the discussion of intangibles and culture and tangible and so on and so forth. But within this, the technology, the Indianization of technology has not happened.
Thank you so much. So we can have one more question. If anybody has any question, can raise the question now.
Sir, I have a question. Anand sir, Kushagra this side.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask, since you were showing that AI use of AI for your projects.
Yeah.
So, Leonardo AI is a like paid tool, if I'm right.
Right.
So, how did you like decipher it? Because not AI is in initial stages right now,
Yeah. Yeah. It's in
and
a beta
whatever we
stage.
feed.
Right. Right. We call it
Yeah.
the beta stage, right?
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes it's best to use AI, and some earlier we used to like model it in 3D.
Hmm.
So what are the differences that you find in doing practical projects
Yeah.
and implications?
So,
Yeah.
so here I was just illustrating the miscommunication or the need to develop that extra skill through these graphics. That if we do not have the skill of communicating with Leonardo.ai, so then we will not be able to handle anything. So, to educate Leonardo.ai into understanding our systems would take a lot more time, and even whatever output is coming from that software, first of all, the picking that software was because we are using it here, generally students use it for, we tell them that you generate a first image and then you think about it and then you say what is wrong, because finding what is wrong is as much important as finding what is right. So that is the process that we took in this particular exercise of AI in the classroom with a few researchers, because under this program of VR and AI, and that it was then that they started. I started giving them images, and they started using them to figure out what AI had to say, and we could have a nice, warm discussion around the descaling, loss of elements, and so on and so forth. So what I had to say is that while this discussion was constructive in understanding that not enough knowledge, not enough play has happened, like video games, like making games on VR, and using that VR technology has not happened in an indigenized format. You have all sorts of motorcycle racing, car racing, every racing, but not in an Indian village. The setup is a highway. The setup is a complex imagery
Yes.
on a hill. It's a European countryside, or maybe it's on the seaside, a seaside road, or complex traffic, but it's never ever in an Indian village or Indian heritage or an Indian complex, urban environment. So what I have to say is that while the truth is that we have not been able to play with these things at various levels in technology, and even if the opportunity arises, we use the European or the Western syntax to address those game situations or the knowledge situations. And it is because of this that system does not have enough information on our way of living. We have to push this in. So I do not know whether this answers your question, because, but definitely in the profession, we do not use this at all. We use 3D Max. Some offices have, I have heard, are using VR very successfully. And while the demonstrations on VR were conducted by the University of Navarra across these programs, and we have started using VR lens in our institutions, we realize that VR does give you better opportunity for detail and better exhibition for detail, but definitely not AI.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
sir.
To have a naughty ending. Oh, I wanted to tell you something, I forgot. Oh, shit. Okay, next time.
Maybe Professor Binu wanted to say, Anand Khatri.
No. I was just remembering something, like I forgot what I wanted to say. Something connected to what you said. Some analogy. It's okay, please carry on. I'll remember the analogy and share with all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in the chat box, I have shared the QR code for the brochure of the conference. So if you want to know more about the conference, the registration details and everything is there in the brochure. So kindly scan the QR code and get the details of conference.
Maybe I
time.
remember what I wanted to say.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, please.
As students of architecture, we learned Christopher Tadgill, Bannister Fletcher, all talking about Indian architecture. We rarely had books
Okay.
written by Indian authors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you read now, maybe at that time it was just passing an exam, but when we read now, we understand that, gap of, talking about my own culture and talking about someone else's culture is there. Similarly, as what Professor Anand said, no, like if we are using AI, which is not been made for India, then obviously we will not have good results. This is what I wanted to say, forgot. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you. Sorry.
We pointed out. Yeah. So we have always seen India through the perspective of foreigners. Yeah. So that was a very interactive session. So we are very happy. So I'll just share the screen now. Yeah. So now I want to give thanks. So, so on behalf of Council of Architecture and the Patil School of Architecture, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our esteemed speakers, Dr. Binamol Tom and Professor Anand Khatri, and all our participants for taking time to join us today. So before leaving the meeting, I would like to invite you all to register for the next webinar led by Dr. Sergio Porto on March 27, 2025. The topic is Urban Morphometrics, Technological Innovation for Evidence-Based Evolutionary Design. So Dr. Sergio Porto, he is a professor of urban design, director of urban studies unit in the University of Strathclyde, Glasgow. So please do register for the webinar. You can use the same form, Google form, for registering for this webinar. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. Thank you, speakers.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.